What I have in my hands here might look like an ordinary camcorder, but it's not. It's actually a professional 3D camcorder. And as you can see, it has two lenses, but also a lot of interesting features like professional audio inputs. But there's not a lot of information about this camcorder online. It's extremely difficult to find one of these camcorders today, so how good is a 3D camcorder in 2025? And this model is called the HXR NX3D1e, which is a professional version of the consumer 3D camcorder, which means you also have this lens hood that you can attach. So when you attach it, it makes the camera look more professional, but it also helps with sun flares. And you also have this top handle that you can install. So you can connect it to the top of the camera. And then here you have the old multi-interface shoe. And then you connect the cable. And now you have professional 48 volt phantom power in a small compact camcorder. So you can get great audio results. And what's also nice is about this top handle is that you can get a nice grip like this. So this makes it easier to get some more creative shots compared to holding your camera like this. So it is another way to hold the camera, but sadly here on the top handle there isn't any controls, unlike the newer professional Sony camcorders. And what is so weird is that this camera released at about 4,000 euros, but it just feels not that good in terms of build quality. It feels pretty plasticky, and that is so weird for a professional camcorder. You can also look at the menu system, and it still has the consumer menu system on this camera. Whereas with other professional NX cam models, for example the Sony FS100, you had a professional menu system, whereas this one is just a consumer model. But one thing that this model has that the consumer model doesn't have is that you can manually adjust the 3D depth adjustment, so that's pretty cool. So here you can see it has two lenses, and now it is in the 2D mode. So if I start zooming in, you can see that only one of the two lenses is actually zooming in. So that's also interesting to see, but you also have a 2D and 3D switch here. So if you hit the 3D mode, it will activate a 3D display here. So you can live preview the 3D mode. It will take a bit of time to switch between the 2D and the 3D mode. So you might need to wait like 5 or 10 seconds, which can be a bit annoying. But the 3D videos are MTS files, you can throw them in the video editing software, and they can also look like 2D if you want to. And when you look at the 3D effect on the screen, it actually looks so amazing. Sadly, I can't show it on camera, but it will give so much depth to the scene. It's actually insane how it works. The downside though is to view 3D content, you actually need a compatible screen. So you need a 3D screen, and sadly, a lot of screens these days are not 3D. So you might have a 3D camera to capture some cool 3D content, but then you also need the compatible TV or screen. And also uploading to YouTube in 3D can also be a little bit annoying. And finding a camera like this is very difficult because they don't make this one anymore and they had very few units sold. So the ones that are available can be pretty expensive. So I don't recommend buying one at all because this is already technology from 10 years ago. So the 3D effect is really cool, but how is the overall image quality? Well, when you're watching the 3D effect, you kind of forget about the image quality. But when you're just watching a regular 2D video of this camera, it looks okay. It's nothing special actually. So here's a quick video and audio test using the Sony HXR NX3D1e. I'm using the built-in microphone, so the top handle is disconnected and it is the internal microphone instead of the XLR mic, which means that it will record in stereo. So how does the audio sound? I'm very curious. And how does the video look? Right now I am all the way zoomed out and I'm holding it at arm's length, so you can see the field of view is pretty zoomed in. And now I am behind the camera and I'm shooting in the 2D mode, so this is not in 3D. Keep in mind that it is already getting pretty dark. So walking here you can see it's pretty dark and it still holds up pretty well. But I've noticed that when you get into really dark environments, then the low light isn't that good. And that's because it's using 1/4" sensors. That is the quarter of the size of other professional camcorders like the Sony PXW-X70. So that means you won't really be able to get a background blur. You might think like, wow, it looks professional, so the image quality must be good. But keep in mind, they had to fit two camcorders into one. So they not only have two lenses, but also two sensors inside of this. And two chips to process the image. So that makes the camera obviously a bit bigger, but also the two sensors in this camera are pretty small. They are 1/4 of an inch And when there is enough light, the image quality is pretty good, but nothing amazing. You can see the stabilization does work really well, but the amount of detail that the sensor captures isn't that high. It's okay, but nothing amazing. And that is also because it shoots in full HD maximum, so you don't have the option to shoot in 4K. What is insane though is that it has a 12 times optical zoom. And because it has two lenses that both have the 12 times optical zoom, it means that when you zoom in and you have a compatible 3D monitor, you still get the 3D effect when zooming in. So that is really cool. And what's also cool are these audio controls. So as you can see right here, you have a lot of manual control over the audio. And here I have attached the shotgun microphone, the ECM XM1, and that will make a massive difference in terms of audio quality for dialogue, because you have an internal stereo microphone which can capture omnidirectional sound, so sound from everywhere. But this external microphone points forward, so just at the front. So right now I am recording on the internal stereo microphone of the HXR NX3D1e. And now let's switch to the shotgun microphone. And what you are hearing right now is the shotgun XLR microphone. So it should probably sound a bit better and also pick up my voice. And now if I move behind the camera, then you should hear me less compared to when I am in front of the camera. So what do you think of the microphone quality when an XLR microphone is connected? What I also like is this, the built-in lens protection. So I don't need to carry around an extra lens cap, and that's really cool that it just closes automatically. And it also has internal 96 gigabytes of storage. So in conclusion, this is a very cool and unique camera with also some interesting features. But sadly, the technology has moved on a lot and you can barely find them anywhere, so it's not worth picking up obviously, except for a collector's item. But it is still really fun looking back at these old technologies and how innovating it was back then. Did you know this camera existed? What do you think of it? Let me know in the comments down below, and thank you so much for watching.